Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this Digivisio webinar. This is our first webinar for English-speaking audiences this year. Good to meet you all here. Our program for the next hour or so looks like this. First, our program manager, Sakari Heikkilä, will tell us about our targets for this year and a little bit about where we are now. After that, our coordinator, Sini Hakala, will tell us about the vision for the future of e-learning that we published last year. And finally, project manager Eeva Tuoripastila will give us an insight on piloting in Digivisio and especially the 2.0 pilot that is about to begin this spring. And after that, we will have time for discussion. Please use the Q&A functionality in Zoom. You can find it on the Zoom bar below. And we will answer all of your questions in written form or out loud here after all the presentations. All right, without further ado, I give the floor to Sakari. Go ahead.
Thank you, Siri, and a very good afternoon on my behalf as well, and welcome to this webinar. Like Siri already introduced, I will go briefly into where the program is at the moment, and I will especially focus on this year, what our annual plan is like, what we are going to focus on, and go briefly into the kind of targets that we have for this year. Yes, so first of all, let's dig into this this action plan for this year. And before going into the priorities for this year, maybe I could do a very brief recap of 2022, what we achieved and what we were focusing on last year. The biggest task that we had in 22 by far was setting up the development of the actual services. So we did a lot of procurements. We introduced a lot of developers into building the service. So they started that work last year already. So that was maybe the biggest goal and biggest achievement of 22. So this year we are actually going into the publication phase, and we'll have the first pilots running, and we are actually going to present what we have been planning in the previous year. So the priorities for this year is the progress of the development of and piloting of the Digivisio service, the continuous and flexible learning tray, which I will refer to as the tray in the future. Also, another priority is functional and good partnerships with the key development partners. And these key development partners are obviously the SISU and PEPPI systems. In order to have our services up and running and functioning properly, we need to be in very close discussion with SISU and PEPPI and make sure that that the needs that we have in terms of the digital service that SISU and PEPPI can accommodate and can answer to the requirements that we have. And that's a dialogue. We cannot dictate what SISU and PEPPI do for us, but we need to work that out in a dialogue. The second priority for this year is progress of the change work at higher education institutions and internal commitment with higher education institutions. So in the end of last year, in mid-December, all the higher education institutions drafted their first change plans, how they how they plan to take the services that we are building into use in the future, what kind of internal change management processes and projects they will be implementing in order to get ready for the services that Digivisio is building. And that is a work that is going on continuously, and the higher education institutions update their plans every half year approximately. So the next updated plans will be presented in June. The third priority for this year is building a readiness for scalability. So the way we are working, we are releasing these technical releases, small pilots as we go on, but at the same time, in the background, we need to prepare ourselves for scaling up the services, which will happen sometime most likely sometime in the end of 24, maybe beginning of 25. There's not a set date yet, but we need to work in the background to be ready for the scalability. And that's a kind of a competence that we're building at the moment. The fourth priority for this year is specifying the consortium's long-term goals, ensuring commitment, planning, organization, and funding. So as we are working as a program at the moment, it's clear to everyone that these services that we are building, they cannot run, a program cannot run them in the future. They need to have a stable, a long-term basis, who keeps the services up and how they are funded. And this is something that we're looking into at the moment. And the discussions with the higher education institutions is rather active at the moment, and we hope to have these long-term goals and commitments and the organization type planned before the summer. So this obviously helps us in ensuring future funding as well, as soon as we know what kind of organization we will be, and kind of getting into grips with what are the main goals for the service from 25 onwards. Then these slightly smaller goals that we've written for this year. The continuous and flexible learning tray. The tray will be developed and the pilots will be completed according to the publication plan. And I will actually show you the publication plan on the next slide. So we have the plan until the end of 24, and we are committed to going forward with that plan and keeping up with the plan this year. We are also drafting these common rules and guidelines regarding the service, how and with what requirements higher education institutions can take part in the tray and show their study offerings on the tray. The operation models and processes and tools related to tray will be built in schedule and fulfill the requirements set by the higher education institutions. So running the tray, obviously we need to have the operation models, for example, keeping up the service management and all the other requirements that are related to the technical services. They need to be built in schedule and fulfill the requirements of all the HEIs. The decision related to the long-term goals and organization of the consortium. So by the end of the year, those decisions need to have been made, and the planning for the funding of the next phase, 25 to 28, needs to be planned by the end of this year. So that's a big goal for this year, and that's something that I am also personally involved in this program. The higher education institutions the goal is that they have progressed towards the change and they are ready to deploy the first scalable version of the tray. So that's related to the scaling priority that was on the previous slide. It is something that we are working in the background continuously. We also need to support the higher education institutions with change management program. So we need to give them adequate information about what type of service we are building, what are the technical specifications, and all other necessary information, so they can plan their own activities in each and every one of the higher education institutions. We are also improving the cooperation model between the higher education institutions and the program office. We have set up these theme groups in the beginning of this year. That's one way of getting all the 38 institutions into developing the service. And there are also these more technical and finance-related projects that we are improving at the moment, so that the cooperation between the program office and the HEIs is as smooth as possible. But the technical release plan that I referred to earlier, so we are still planning to have these 3 technical releases before the end of 24. The first technical release component will be released in this quarter, the first quarter of 23. And we are already planning the technical release component 2, which will be out early next year. And the third and final technical release in this plan will be released in the third quarter of 24. It's important to understand that, like I mentioned earlier, we are currently working on the plans for 25 and onwards. We need to take a look and see what kind of features, what kind of elements we need to take into our roadmap beginning from 25. Obviously, there has been discussions about what is the role of degree studies. As mentioned before, we are working on this continuous and flexible learning tray, and the students or the customers in this service are obviously those who are already in working life. But what can we offer the degree students in the future? What would be the role of degree studies in this tray? Other things that we are looking into is obviously the international aspect. There are a multitude of European initiatives related to the higher education and these platforms and consortiums that are being built. We need to position ourselves and see what are the most the best partners for Digivisio and the HEIs in the future. Should we cooperate with one or a few of them? So that's also one aspect that I predict that will be coming in from 25 onwards. But even these features that are mentioned here, their development will not be complete by the end of 24. Obviously, all of these features, these components that are presented here, their development will obviously continue after 24 as well. So the tray, the first version of the tray is nowhere near ready at the end of 24. It will be continuously developed, also according to customer feedback in the future. So looking ahead at this roadmap, here are some of the things that we have already noted that we might be working in 24. So ensuring the future funding of the project, I mentioned that we are working on that already this year, but those discussions will most likely continue next year. Next year, we'll also have the legal person or legal entity in operational readiness, and the launch of the tray. And this year, we are also looking at very closely at what we're going to do 25 onwards. So we're working with all the leadership of all the HEIs this spring, and trying to find focus on what we will do together beginning in 25. So we need to look into that before the summer, and hopefully we will have a clearer picture of 25 and onwards when we get into September. So here was a brief update on what we are planning to do this year, and a very brief look into to 25 and onwards. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Sakari. And if you have any questions for Sakari, please use the Q&A functionality, and we will try to answer all your questions. And next, we have Sini Hakala, who is going to tell us about the vision for the future of e-learning. Go ahead.
Thank you, Siiri. Just a moment there. Okay, very good afternoon on my behalf as well. So I will be guiding you guys through the vision for the future of e-learning today. Let's get started. So first, I'm going to start with some background and objectives of the vision work. To start with, high-quality pedagogy plays a key role in promoting the goals of the Digivisio program. So we started last year, and we did a close cooperation with the higher education institutions as well as existing networks. The The objectives of the vision work were to provide guidelines for developing the tray. Secondly, we wanted to build a shared aim for higher education institutions, as well as the Digivisio program, to develop e-learning now and in the future. Lastly, we wanted to create a shared understanding of what kind of e-learning will support the learner in achieving the goals of Digivisio program. Pedagogy is alive and it's constantly changing. So we need to have a shared vision of what's coming, what's happening. Learning and teaching must interact with the surrounding world so that we can together change, so that we can face the challenges and the changes. Pedagogy is now and will continue to be the cornerstone of higher education institutions' activities. We need to improve pedagogical arrangements and practices all the time. And also, the development of future pedagogy will be realized through shared information and close collaboration between higher education institutions. So the vision for the future of e-learning as a part of Digivisio program. The world's best higher education pedagogy is meaningful and functional. It evolves with time, it builds on everyday life, and meets the needs of different learners. The world's best e-learning will be developed in interaction within the higher education community. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper. What does all of this mean? So, when we say that e-learning evolves with time, well, basically, instead of a static operating model, the change aims for flexibility and adaptability. E-learning builds on everyday life. So basically, we need to give extensive support to learners and teachers every day in their everyday life. The world's best e-learning meets the needs of different learners, enable a study-driven lifestyle, and we also want to remove obstacles from the learning path. So make it easier for everybody to join. The world's best e-learning develops in interaction within the higher education community. So basically, when the teachers, the pedagogical experts meet and collaborate and cooperate, that's where the magic happens. So how do we make this vision alive? We do it in our everyday life. Well, pedagogical skills are continuously developed as a part of every teacher's professional competence. We want to support learning to learn skills. We want to encourage cooperation, appropriate digital solution knowledge. So basically, we breathe life into what everyday life. What I can learn different types in different ways that suit me best. I did towards suitable based on and as a learner and support for learning in a flexible manner and in different ways that suit my needs and abilities. Then what will change and support services? Most important, a team-based, a part of studies. They will be a natural part of the processes of the development of teachers' competence has been in that development. And also there will be incentive pedagogical competence motivating their career paths. What will change? They implementation and support learning with support service. The higher education institutions are profiled in the contents of the tray based on their own strategy. More in the teaching of higher education pedagogy and applications.
I'm sorry, Sini, are you finished? I'm afraid you were a bit like, the connection was a bit bad.
Realize that.
Yeah, it's okay, but you had like a good presentation so everybody can read from the slides. Okay, good. And then lastly, I will give the floor to Eva. Go ahead.
Thank you, Siiri, and I hope my connection will be a bit better than Sini's. I'm just a minute. I'm going to share you my slides. There you go. Okay. So, hello everybody. My name is Eva Tuorikoskela and I work as a project manager of piloting at the Digivisio 2030 program. I'm going to tell you something about piloting and co-development in Digivisio program. First, few words about what piloting means in this program. So piloting is a way to try out different designs and early ideas, as well to test the functionality of near-ready solutions. The aim is to reduce uncertainty before plans are implemented, as well as solutions rolled out more widely, and also to support higher education institutions in implementing. This slide you have already seen. So the slide presents the technical release components of the tray that have been planned so far and the schedule of their piloting. So the technical release component 1.0 is published at the end of this month, and the piloting and development started in October 2022. And the pilot for technical release component 1.0 focuses on presenting offering that isn't measured in credits, such as events, open material, and recording on the tray. In technical release component 2.0, Open University and Applied Science studies and joint offerings are included on the tray. Interfaces to PEPPI and SISU are introduced in this version, and piloting starts in April. At the moment, there are already 2 pilots ongoing. 1.0 started in October, as I already told you, and here you can see the higher education institutions involved with the pilot. And the user-centered identity management solution pilot started in the beginning of this year. Then something about pilot 2.0 of the continuous and flexible learning tray. So at the turn of the year, the application process for the technical release component pilot 2.0 of the continuous and flexible learning tray was carried out. And in total, we received 17 applications. And actually 27 out of 38 higher education institutions participated in the pilot application process, either independently or as a part of a consortium. And so that was a very high number. The pilot has 2 focus areas. The first is the tray development, and the second is internal development, which is focused on production of digitally supported courses on offer. For pilot 2.0, a variety of higher education institutions was sought based on location, size, and disciplines. We also discovered some priorities for the technical release component pilot 2.0. We have identified focus areas to support evaluating the applications. And these areas are used to maximize the benefit from the development point of view. Strengths and competencies related to the focus areas have been identified from among those chosen pilots, higher education institutions, in order to be able to deploy them in the early stages piloting and co-development. And the focus areas are technical development of the tray, production of digitally supported learning offerings, co-produced content by higher education institutions, and knowledge-based management and developing offering. And something about the selection of the higher education institutions for the pilot 2.0. So the General Assembly selected the pilot higher education institutions at its meeting on 15th February this year. And the General Assembly made its decision based on recommendations from the Digivisio program office. And the pilots for the technical release component 2.0 are Jyväskylä University of Applied Sciences, Turku University of Applied Sciences, Fitech Network University with 9 universities, and the Lapland University Consortium. In addition, the network formed by University of Eastern Finland, Kajaani University of Applied Sciences, Karela University of Applied Sciences, and Savonia University of Applied Sciences will have the opportunity to continue from pilot 1.0 to pilot 2.0 without funding for a pilot coordinator. And this will test the transition of higher education institutions between pilots. Then a few words about general feedback about the applications. So as I already told you, the number of applications received was positively surprising and much higher than we expected. And we noticed that the quality of the applications was very high, and it showed that the strong motivation of the higher education institutions to pilot of component 2.0. The possibility to offer different skills and resources was seen as an important factor for the success of the pilot. And actually there were some variations in resources between applicants. Then we discovered that several applications raised themes that are central to the hypothesis of the 3.0 technical release component. And therefore we encourage to be active when the call for proposals for the technical release component pilot 3.0 is launched. The selection has taken into account the overall representativeness of higher education institutions in the Digivisio work. Well, as we know, not all the higher education institutions are able to take part of the pilots. So therefore, we have decided to establish a pilot monitoring group. And the aim of the monitoring group is to share information on the content, progress, and findings of the pilots with all higher education institutions. And participation of the group is open to the change coordinators and operational contact persons of the higher education institutions. The group will meet once per increment, and that means approximately every 3 months. And the first meeting is on 27th March. The monitoring group meeting will review what progress has been made in each pilot over the past quarter. And also the higher education institutions can ask questions during the group meetings. And there you can see what other ways there is to monitor the progress of the program. Then launch of the pilot 2.0. So the selected pilot higher education institutions have been contacted and initial discussions will take place in March in order to agree on practical arrangements. And the pilot starts in April, in mid-April. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. There you can see my email address. Thank you.
Thanks, Eva. Yes, and if you have any questions during the webinar, I encourage you to use the Q&A functionality now, since we are at the end of our webinar program. We are going to have three different Digivisio webinars this year in English. The next one will be at the end of August, and the last one will be in November. You can find all of these in our website. Well, they're not right now in there, but they will be added there soon. So make sure that you mark these in your calendar now. And yes, you can also follow us online. We have Digivisio newsletters in English. It's published 4 times a year, and you still have time to catch up with this year and go ahead and sign up for the newsletter. And you can also find us in Twitter and LinkedIn, so make sure you follow us there. Okay, I can't see any questions, but you can also contact us after this webinar. You can send us email at digivisio@csc.fi if you have any questions. Now we have one question at the Q&A functionality. Yes, could you please tell us what the tray entails? Just a summary for an outsider who is new to this. If I'm understanding correctly, Sakari would like to answer. Go ahead, Sakari.
Yes, thank you, Siri. To get the basics of what the tray actually entails and what the functionalities are, there are information on our website, but just to make a brief kind of introduction to what it includes. So the tray will include the study opportunities for continuous learners from all the universities and universities of applied sciences in Finland. So there are 38 HEIs involved, and as we approach the end of 24, hopefully there will be content from most, if not all the HEIs involved. The functionalities are such that the learner can go into the tray, which is basically kind of a website where they can find all the study offerings, opportunities from the institutions. They can filter the contents based on various filters, such as teaching language, if it's remote or face-to-face teaching. They can filter the opportunities based on the level, if they're kind of basic courses or more advanced. So there's a multitude of different filters involved as well. So it's basically I would compare it to similar customer-oriented web services that are already on the market for other types of services other than education. We will also have in the future, we'll have the opportunity that the student or the learner can actually log into the platform, and if the system or when the system knows who the learner actually is, knows their profile, what they have maybe studied beforehand, they can recommend different kind of contents based on that information. So there will be a component of artificial intelligence or kind of the use of data in the background, so that the tray can recommend different kind of courses or contents for the individual. So just to very briefly describe what the tray entails and what it includes, that's the description. But there are information material on the websites which are more thorough and bring out all the features that we are planning.
Thank you, Sakari. That was a very good answer. You can also find more information about the tray at digivisio2030.fi/n/new services developed in Digivisio 2030. Perfect. Good. Thank you for a very good question. I think that's our webinar for today. Thank you all for participating, and I hope we meet again soon. Thanks.